Before we go any further, your life is going to be a lot easier if you install the official Vue.js dev tools for Chrome. So go ahead and find them on the Chrome store if you're using the Chrome browser. All this will allow us to do, if we just close this off now, is open up our developer tools here. Go ahead and click on the Vue icon. It shows that Vue.js isn't detected, so let's just give that a refresh. And what we can now do is open up our Vue tab, not only see all of the elements on our page, but also see our base state with our getters as well. And eventually when we mutate, we'll see all of our mutations inside of here. So the goal for this part is to enter a room ID and have that forwarded over to the URL with that room name, and also enter our name as well and set this inside of our state. So let's first of all start off, and the easiest place I find to start off is over in your actual state itself. So under state, what kind of information do we need here? We can set room to empty because we don't really need to know about that just yet. We're also going to have inside of here data relating to the user. Now I'm calling this state, which probably isn't a good idea. It's a little bit confusing, so feel free to change that over to user if you prefer. But we're going to have a name for the user. We're going to have whether they're muted, which at the moment will be false, and we are going to have whether they are paused, which at the moment will also be false. Now we may as well also set up the clients array in here, which will be the people that eventually join the room so we can see them. So let's go ahead and also include that as well. Okay, so over in our mutations, let's create a mutation that allows us to set the name of the person, and then we'll move on. So let's export a set me name for lack of a better name, but of course you can come up with a better name if you prefer. And inside of here, what we're going to do is get in our state, which we can modify, and we will also get in the name that we want to set for that particular user. Now, all we do here is we say state name, and we assign that to name. That's pretty much it. Because we have already set up our mutations over in our store, we should now be able to map in our mutations over in our homepage, so over in here, and that will go ahead and set these up. So when we submit this form, at the moment it's not doing anything, so we need a submit prevent event here, and prevent will prevent the default behavior, which of course is going through and actually submitting the form. And we're going to go ahead and call a join method inside of here. So let's define this method out down here, so methods, and let's say join, and this will just basically go ahead and set that user's name, and it will then forward us over to the room that we've chosen. So before we do anything, let's go ahead and say room nothing, just because we're going to need that in a second, and name nothing as well. So inside of join, we are going to reference that mutation directly. Of course, we don't know how to keep track of this name at the moment, so let's go ahead and set a v model on here, and we'll also trim this as well, so we'll get rid of any extra white space on the left and the right hand side. And we can also set this up for the room as well, so why don't we just do this now just so we've got it in there. So let's say v model room. So if we just come down to the join method, then I'm just going to do a console log here on this name just to make sure that's being output properly. And of course, as long as we have our console open, we'll be able to see this. So let's go ahead and enter my name and click join, and sure enough we see Alex. And we can also go ahead and do the same for the room as well, but we can be pretty confident that's working. So what we now want to do is map in that mutation. So let's import map mutations from Vuex, and this is slightly different. These will work as methods, so we can go ahead and spread these into here, much like we did with the computed property for the getters that we saw earlier. And we're going to go ahead and say set me name, and we can reference set me name. Now you don't have to do this if you are working with the same name. You can actually pass this in singularly like this as an array rather than a object, but I just prefer to do that so I can control the name here. So all we're going to do is say this set me name, and we're going to pass in this name. Pretty straightforward stuff. That's going to go ahead and hit our mutation and update our state. Now we can check that out over in our Vue developer tools just here, and at the moment you can see the name is empty. If I go ahead and enter this and click join, sure enough that's now been set to Alex, and you can see that mutation just here has been fired. Now we're not going to set the room name just yet. What we're going to do instead is take the room name that's been entered here, for example cat, and when I click join, and as long as we have our name in there as well, we're going to be forwarded over to a new page which will show the room ID in the URL. Now the reason for this is that if you were to give the link to someone else, you want the room name in the URL rather than just in the state. That's going to make it easier for you to share that link and give it to other people for you to join the same room, particularly when we start to look at generating large UUIDs for the room ID. So let's go ahead and just close everything off. We're going to go back over to our router. I'm going to create a new component here. So I'm going to create a room folder because we're going to have a few partials in here, and I'm going to create an index.view file inside of here, and let's go ahead and just create out a really simple template with room, and that should just about do it for now. Now if we come over to router index, what we can now do is import that index file from room/index, and we can go ahead and create a new root for this. So let's just copy and paste this one down. This is going to be slightly different because of course a room needs to have something like a slash. So we are going to have room slash, and then we're going to have a room ID placeholder in here. The name of this is going to be room, and of course we already know the component here is going to be room. Now what we're also going to do, and I'm actually going to rename this to room index just so it is a little bit clearer, and we're going to have props true. Now what's going to happen here is the room ID is going to be passed down to our room index file here as a prop, which means that we can automatically read it out and we don't have to rely on referencing the router directly from this component. We'll see how this works in just a second. So over in our index.view file, we don't really need to do anything in here for now, but what I do want to do is when we join, I'm going to go ahead and switch the root over to that new root that we've just created. So we can reference this router and we can push, and in here we can provide the name. So the name is room, that's the name of the page. We can also provide the parameters as well, and we know that we have a room parameter, which is going to be this room. You can add some validation in here as well if you want to. I'm not going to do that because it's just, at this stage a little bit pointless, but feel free to add some validation to not let any of this happen if both the room and the name haven't been entered. Okay, so now that this is done, this should be working. So if we just give this another refresh and I enter, say I want to join the cats room and my name is Alex and I join, I am forwarded over to room/cats, and of course also my name has been set. So what we can now do is start to use WebRTC to join that particular room, etc. Now I said before that over in our room index, this will have been passed down as a prop. So if we export a default object in here and we specify out the props that we require, room is going to be a string, we can actually reference the room name inside of here. That's going to be passed down from view router into here. So you can see we get that name out. So we can very easily use that now directly from here rather than having to reference the current root and extract out the parameters. So to be honest, that's pretty much it. But lastly, what we're just going to do is head back over here and look at automatically setting a room ID. So a long, unique ID for this. It just makes it a little bit nicer to work with because then, you don't have to choose a room that other people can guess. So for this, we're going to go ahead and pull in UUID. So let's just come over here and do an npm install on UUID and save this out. And once that's finished, we can import this over in our home and we can go ahead and just very easily set this value automatically to the room name. So let's just check if this is finished. Yes, it has. So let's go ahead and import this and get this done. So if we come over to here, let's import UUID from UUID, and we're going to use a v4 UUID. You can go ahead and have a look at the package. I'll leave a link to this in the course links for you. Now, the room here, we want to automatically set to a UUID. So let's go ahead and just say UUID, and that's pretty much as simple as it gets. Of course, because we have the data set now and this is bound to this input, that's just going to automatically show a long UUID for us every time we refresh the page. So you can fiddle around with that if you want, make it a little bit more fun, but for now that's pretty much all we need to do. So I can go ahead and enter my name now and I can click join, and I'm joined into this room exactly what we saw before. So we've covered quite a lot here. So let's go over to the next part and look at a redirection refactor. And by this, I mean, if for example, we are over here and we hit enter, notice that our name isn't set. Now, if that's the case, what we want to do is from here, redirect the user back over to here with the room ID that they were trying to access, so they can then enter their name and then go back and join the room. So let's cover that in the next part, and then we'll get on to the rest of the fun stuff that you, I'm sure, came here for.